The creepiest experience you ever had in your life and why you still think about it?
Hey babes, happy Sunday. Today we have a TikTok compilation of the creepiest experiences that some people have in their life. So let's get into it.
The creepiest experience you ever had in your life and why you still think about it?
Okay, so the creepiest thing that happened to me was years ago. I was living in Georgia with my mom, and I used to smoke a lot of weed then. So this particular day, I was like super fucking high, to the point that, you know, that high that you gotta lay down. Like, it's like the high that you like take a nap, bitch, or you gonna die. Like, I'm dying. So my mother was at the head of her bed. It was a window over her bed, and I was laying at the bottom of the bed. So she was like laying at the head of the bed watching TV, and I'm laying like at the bottom of the bed, and I'm facing the window. So I'm just laying there, and it's like that. We like chit chatting a little bit, but it was that high that like I could not keep my eyes open, and I'm just like dozing off and like so high. I felt so good, and then I look up and I see two nuns coming by, but they didn't have black and white on. They had on beige and off white instead of black and white. I was freaked out. I was freaked out. I told my mother, I was like, Mom. Oh guys, the craziest thing about that was they wasn't walking by or coming towards. They was literally like floating by, and they was side by side. So if I'm laying down and I'm looking at them, they was like just passing by me, like the window. And they was, I don't even know how to explain it. That's how I know it was ghosts, because it was like they was side by side each other, and they had off white, and then the rest of it was cream, like a darker color cream. And the crazy thing about that story is my mom had just like almost died. Like, I mean, she had the worst aneurysm that anyone, we don't even know how she alive. She had several brain surgeries. She have a metal plate in her head to this day and short-term memory loss. And she made it through, but we have several family members that passed, and I'm sure that was like the angel. They was walking, they was watching her, like keeping her safe, obviously. Yeah.
One of the scariest things that ever happened to me happened while I was in college at UC Davis. I was working at Abercrombie & Fitch at Arden Fair Mall at the time when I was in college, and I was actually at the mall for a completely different reason other than work one day. My laptop had kind of shit its pants, and I went to go take it in, whatever. As I was leaving, this man approached me. And as females, we're kind of used to having men approach us. It's not that big of a deal. You just say, don't bother me, and they're usually on their way. But there was something about this man's presence that had me frozen in fear. I had never, and still to this day, have never experienced anything like that before. I can't remember exactly what he said. It was nothing threatening, nothing super intimidating. I think he was just like, oh, what's your name? Like, why are you here? Something like that. But for some reason, something had just a pit in my stomach just being in this man's presence, and I gunned it into the nearest store by the exit, and I called my dad immediately, and I said, there's a man that has approached me. There's something about him that's not right. I just need you to be on the phone with me until I can get to my car. I get into my car, lock the door, get home, forget all about it. Then 2 weeks later, I am working a shift at Abercrombie on a completely different day, completely different time. This time it's a closing time, and I am leaving the store ready to go home. There's really no one in the mall, and I'm leaving the store, and in the distance I see a man sitting on a bench. When I get close enough to realize who it is, it's too late. He's already making eye contact with me, and it's the same man that gave me that horrible pit in my stomach a few weeks prior. This scared me so badly for a few reasons. One, there was no one there. There was no one in this mall, really, besides like the few employees that were probably still closing up their stores, but there was like literally no one in this mall. It was empty. There's no reason why he should have been sitting there. And it just seemed like he was sitting there waiting for me. And that scared me, because how did he know where I worked? How did he know I was going to be there at that time? And why is he sitting here waiting for me? What are his intentions? After this, things get even scarier than I could have imagined. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to do a part 2 and explain that.
I need to go find that part too. But y'all, always, always, always trust your intuition.
Part 2 of one of the scariest things that's ever happened to me. So where we left off was I was leaving my shift at work when I saw this man that I had seen a few weeks prior, and he looked like he was waiting for me. I gunned it for the other side of the mall through like a walkway, and went down the escalator, and I was trying to go as fast as I could. However, I was quick to realize that this man was following me. And what was even scarier to me was he wasn't trying to get my attention. He was super calm and he was just following me and he looked mad. I always parked at this restaurant at the mall because it stayed open later than any of the stores and I knew there was going to be a lot of late night foot traffic there. So I would park there so that way if anything ever happened, if I ever needed something, I could easily go in and ask for help. But in this instance, I just went directly inside the restaurant and I waited and I called my dad. I call my dad, I tell him the situation, and now he's telling me to calm down, everything's gonna be okay. He tells me what to do, and his instructions are simply wait in this BJ's for as long as you can, find a group that's going out together and go out with them. When you can go out with them, make sure to stay kind of close to them in the group so it just looks like you're following along, and then beeline it to your car as fast as you can. So that's exactly what I do, and I make it to my car, lock the doors, and I think I'm all in the clear. I tell my dad, okay, I'm here, everything's good, I'm just going to go home now, thank you. As I'm pulling out of my parking spot and trying to get out of the parking lot, a car approaches my car on the side of it. Someone rolls down their window, and it is this man and another man. The other man I had never seen before, but that same man that had followed me rolled down his window and is now yelling at me, demanding that I roll down my window and demanding that I pull over. And at this moment, my fight or flight kicked in, and thankfully, I chose flight, and also thankfully, I was raised in Southern California, so if there's anything we can do, it's zoom zoom. I called back my dad, though, and I was frantic. I was really, really scared. I did not know what was happening, because now, as I was pulling out and skirting out of this parking lot, this man was following me. He was super close to my car and trying to get as close to it as possible. When I call my dad, he asked me, is there a way that you can kind of get away from him somehow? And the freeway that I needed to take to go home, it actually splits two ways. It goes east and west or something like that. And I had to go east. So I told my dad, I was like, you know what I'm going to do at the last second, like when I need to go east, I'm just going to go super fast into that lane and hope I'm okay and hope he doesn't follow behind me. Meanwhile, this guy is flashing his brights in my rear and getting super close to my car and honking at me. Thankfully, I was able to pull into the other lane just in time for him to not have time to be able to follow me, and I went home, and I never saw him again, thankfully. But to this day, I just know his intentions were not good.
Submission, and I know I look rough, but that's what's gonna make it real spooky. But anyway, so one night I was sitting at my mama's house. My mama live in the country, right? So it ain't nothing around, like it's a cow pasture down the street. It ain't no street lights or nothing like that. So the only light outside is my mama's porch light. And at the time I was talking to this little guy, and it was a lot going on in my mama's house. So I was like, let me step outside and get a little privacy. And in my mind, I was like, it's gonna be cool. Like, if as long as I'm on the phone with somebody, can't nobody get me, because it's like it's a person out here with me. That was a lie. So I'm sitting there, and the beam from the light is shining onto my mama's yard. And on this side of the beam is darkness. On that side of the beam is darkness, because it ain't no other light but the porch light. So as I'm sitting there talking on the phone, we politicking, cupcaking, whatever what we do. Here come a shadow out of the darkness. And when I tell you it's a shadow, it's not one of them shadows that lay down on the ground. This was like negative space, like a person walking. It was upright, but it was a shadow. Like it was dark. Like you couldn't see the light passing through this person. Man, the person, I could still see it to this day. Like, she had long hair. You could tell I can get chills, but she had long hair. She had, like, it looked like she was bundled up. She had on a dress or whatever. I could make out all of this, but like you couldn't see through this person. And she was just walking. So I'm staying on the phone, and I'm just like watching and trying not to let on that I can see this person. And like, are they seeing me, seeing them? So they just walking. And I watched it until it went into the darkness on the other side of the light beam. And as soon as it disappeared, something came and said something to me in my ear. Like, as soon as the figure went into the darkness, something in my ear breathed like breath and said something, but I couldn't even sit there long enough to make out what it was saying because I was so shook. I jumped up so fast and slammed the door on my leg, trying to close the door and get in the house so fast. And when I got in the house, I could feel the difference in the air. Like, have you ever like had somebody trying to say like something romantic to you and they whispering deep down in your ear? And then when they walk away, the moisture from their breath, like it make your inside of your ear feel cold, bruh. That's what happened to me. Like this person was a real entity or something, and it had hot breath, and it was saying something to me inside of my ear, but I could not. And to this day, something say like you should have just saw what it was gonna say, but I was so doggone scared. And that's only one of the things that's gonna happen to me. And like a lot of this done stopped since I done grown up and became an adult. And I got my own theory about that. But yeah, that stuff real.
So I work in advertising where we produce and shoot commercials for various clients. One of the commercials we were working on required a set that looked like a 1980s Irani hospital. And we're Utah based, so that's something that's really hard to find here. Luckily, our producer tracked down this it had been an old nursing home and a mental hospital back in the day, and it was no longer in use. It was really old and kind of grungy looking. It was perfect. We go there, and as soon as I walk through the door, I just feel this bad vibe, like in the pit of my stomach. I just felt gross. It was just this weird energy in that building, and it's kind of funny because our art director walked in the door. Well, this isn't funny, but as soon as he walks in, he just throws up all over the place. And I don't know if he had been sick before, but he was definitely extremely sick in that building. He ended up curling up on an old hospital bed and just throwing up the rest of the day. I actually had to go buy him a bucket because he was so sick. He probably should have gotten the heck out of that place, but I think he was too sick to drive even. I felt so bad. Anyway, on our lunch break, I was talking to our hair and makeup lady, and she knew a little bit more about the building because I went in completely blind, and she was like, yeah, a lot of weird things have been known to happen here, and there's a lot of weird stuff in here. There's supposedly this old electroshock therapy chair in the basement, and I was like, oh, I want to go see the electric chair in the basement. That sounds like a fun adventure, you know. And being naive and just wanting a thrill, I was like, oh, let's go explore. And we had the whole building locked down for ourselves. There was no one else but our film crew there. So together we just kind of go prancing through the hallways, looking in rooms, and we get to the edge of this really long hallway that's completely covered in a green carpet. And she goes, oh my gosh, this is called the Green Mile. I've heard of this. And I'm like, what's the Green Mile? And she said, it's the hallway where they used to wheel patients out to surgery. And there's a lot of stories about this hallway. And as soon as we're standing there, she all of a sudden just freezes and like looks down into the abyss of the hallway, you know, towards the end. And I follow her gaze, and this door comes open, and this huge figure just glides across the hallway. And it's completely black. It's kind of like distorted, oblong, humanoid, but bulbous. Its head was like kind of bulbous, and it just glides across the carpet, goes into this other door, and that door just slams shut. I'm in complete shock. We are just staring frozen down this hallway, and I'm gonna have to do part 2. Sorry guys. Welcome to part 2. So I just got done describing how we were on the edge of this hallway called the Green Mile, me and my friend, and we see this distorted, shadowy figure pass from one side of the hall to the other. I'm just in pure shock. I don't know what to do. My friend grabs my arm and she's like, did you see that? I don't know what to say. And then she shakes me again. She goes, did you see that? And I'm like, yeah. And then she just starts running, and I come to my senses. I'm like, don't leave me. And I just run after her. We run back to our film shoot location, the hallway where we're having luncheon, and we just get there. We're just like completely out of breath. Everybody's like, what happened? We're too creeped out to even talk about it. So after this shoot, I want to do as much research as I can about this place. I look it up, find out that it's been on Ghost Adventures twice. It's considered the most haunted place in Utah. They even do ghost tours there sometimes. And I had no idea going in. So I had this big urge to just like talk to somebody about this. So I found out that the owners of the building were going to be at this local comic convention. So I go there. They're giving this little presentation on this documentary on the old mental hospital. But it's not what you think. It wasn't really ghost related. But after the presentation, I go up to them and I just tell them about my experience, and they look at me like I'm completely normal. The first person who looks at me like I'm completely normal after telling this story. And they're like, oh yeah, you saw one of the shadow people. And I was like, shadow people? And they're just like, yeah, there's all these shadow people that live in that hallway. We don't know what they are, but there's all these nurses who used to work there who would see them on the camera, and they're always in the Green Mile. Sometimes like a nurse would get stuck in the Green Mile because a shadow person would like cut her off or crawl on the ceiling. And for some reason it was like comforting to have that confirmation that I wasn't crazy, but also even more terrifying to have the confirmation that I wasn't crazy, because now I know that what I saw was legitimate. Anyway, I don't think I'd ever go back to that place. Like, you couldn't pay me to go back to that place.
Y'all may think I'm crazy for this one, but I swear to God, I remember this clear as day. And it was the time I kid you not, I swear I saw Bigfoot. Age 10, living in Florida, when my family was living in Bradenton, Florida. Let me just tell you the story because shit. So me and my family, when I was 10 years old, living in Florida and everything, my family lived in a small cul-de-sac, okay? Behind us was this large forest, large swamp area, and all that stuff. The only thing that separated us was like this ditch, this sewer ditch and everything, but beautiful forest. Me and my friends played in there all the time, okay? Then one day, my mama comes and tells me, hey, I talked to everyone else in the neighborhood. You and your little friends are not allowed to go into that forest anymore. You know me, I'm like, but why? She's like, don't talk back. Don't ask why. I told you not to go into the forest, so don't. My hard-headed little ass decided to go in there anyway to see what was going on and everything. So I go in there and I see that the little grove area that me and my friends played, the way was torn down. It was barricaded from the inside, which I thought was strange. The little grove area, the forest had multiple entrances to be able to get in there into the underbrush of it and everything. So I go around back in order to see if I could be able to go in the back way. And that's when the freaky shit started to happen. Once I get around back and everything, yeah, I kid you not, I saw this 7, 8 foot tall, dark-haired from head to toe, covered in fur, animal thing, okay? Walking upright. And it was walking like this, kind of hunched, but definitely walking upright. I was in such shock. I did not even know what to do. Alright? And then all of a sudden it stops in its tracks and just start going like as if it was smelling the air. Y'all, I did not move an inch. I moved nothing. I was so damn scared. I did not know what to do. I made myself feel as if I was non-existent in that moment. I was that scared. All of a sudden, it stopped. And it started to continue to walk. When it got further enough away, I ran back home and told my mama what was going on, running through the door going like, Mama, I just saw this big thing and I think it was Bigfoot and everything like that. And she's over here like, I told you not to take your ass back into that forest. Get your ass upstairs. Still remember it to this day.
Okay, so for me, right away, a story comes to my mind. My family used to be really big on garage sales, and my grandma on my mom's side got me this picture, and it was a pretty big picture, and it was like this very like tribal-y kind of looking picture. It was beautiful, but there was something with it. So my mom, when she first saw this picture, she's like, Matt, I don't know, there's something about that picture that is just giving me like a bad vibe. Of course, I ignore it. 3 days, 4 days go by. Weird shit starts happening in my room. I feel like someone's watching me, just getting a really weird feeling. So one night I'm going to bed, and above my bed, I have a ledge above my bed, and there was my stereo speakers and my auxiliary cord and like my bedside table stuff. So I go to sleep this one night, and I wake up in the morning, and I wake up to having the auxiliary cord wrapped around my neck 3 times. And I remember like waking up and literally going 1, 2, 3, like what the fuck? Like it was so scary. So right after that, I knew something was going on, that there was like some kind of bad energy going on in my room. And my grandma on my dad's side, who's extremely religious, came over, and I was explaining to her like what's been going on. And I swear to you guys, as soon as she started praying over my room and praying to Jesus about this shit, like everything changed. Like it never happened again. We got rid of the picture, And yeah, very big lesson was learned. Like, be very careful what you pick up from garage sales, because this was by far the scariest thing that has like ever happened.
I think I had to be about 21. This is when I used to stay in Atlanta. And man, it was one rainy night. It had to be about 38 degrees, and it was real rainy. It was real wet. And earlier that day, I had sold a car, one of my personal cars. I think I sold it for like maybe $2,500, $3,000, and I had that money in my pocket the whole day. I was supposed to take it to the bank, but I just didn't get around to it. So remind you, this gas station, it was about 1 o'clock in the morning, and it was on the West End in Atlanta, on that end. And this gas station is set off the road. Like, but keep that in mind, it's set back off the road, like a good distance. So it's raining 1 o'clock in the morning, it's rainy, it's wet, it's cold. So I need to get some gas. So I got some gas, man, and out of nowhere, this guy rolled up on me. Like, it's a homeless guy. And it threw me off, all the way off, because number one, I didn't hear him. I didn't see him come up. Like, it was no way. It's like it was a Grand Theft Auto cheat code. He just kind of dropped right there out of nowhere. So that kind of threw me off. So he come up to me. He said, man, it's cold, man. It's cold. And I'm like, you got to be mindful of people that just kind of walk up to you and claim they're homeless. You know what I'm saying? So I'm sitting here kind of like, okay, and I feel bad for him. I don't too often feel bad about a lot of homeless people. I don't, I sympathize, but you don't help everybody, all of them out. So the guy was like, it's cold, man. It's cold. When I looked down at his pants, he didn't have any drawers on, because his pants was held up by a shoestring, so it was still hanging down, and his shoelaces. He didn't have any shoelaces, of course, because they was in his pants. So he took his feet out. He took his feet out of his shoes, and he stepped on the ground, and it was wet. So I'm like, damn, his feet, he got to be cold. You know what I'm saying? So he got to be cold. So I'm sitting here, and I'm like, he don't have a T-shirt on. He got a bubble coat with no shirt underneath. So he was like, man, I just really want something warm to drink. I need something warm to drink. And in my mind, I'm kind of like, nah, bro, you're going to need more than something warm to drink. Like, you freezing out here. So after I pumped my gas, I said, man, walk me into the inside of this gas station. Luckily, it was open. Most gas stations not even open at this time. So I told the guy, I said, man, you got change for $100? Because remember, I sold a car, so I got nothing but $100 bills in my pocket. So he was like, oh, you got to buy something. So I'm like, damn. Okay, well, so in the gas station, you know how they have socks, T-shirts, and all the stuff like that. So I said, I can get him this, like, so he can have some stuff, for the days moving forward. So I got him some hot chocolate, like, and we walked back to my car. He said, man, I really appreciate it, man. You're going to get blessed for this. And, I wasn't worried about the blessing, man. Some people generally just need some help. So I just thought about in my trunk. Okay, there we go. I'm back. So yeah, we walked to my car. We walked back to my car. He's like, man, God gonna bless you, man. God gonna bless you. So I'm like, I wasn't doing it because of that. Some people, like I said, genuinely needed some help. So I get in the car and I realize I got a lot of shoes, jackets, hats, and a bag, because I was getting ready to go to Plato's Closet. Plato's Closet, they give you money, because I was going to go to Lennox the next day with that money and just ball out. Like, I was getting ready to really just go shopping with that money that I had. So I had those clothes sitting. So I asked him what size did he wear. He happened to wear a 10, and he was about my size. So I gave him the whole bag, all the stuff in it, So I gave it to him. He just like, oh man, he putting on his socks, things of that sort. So I looked. So I said, I got something else. I think I had some more money sitting in the armrest. So I dig in the armrest, and I turn around. He was gone. Threw me off. Like, remember, I'm not high. I'm not drunk. I'm really just sitting here looking like, what is really going on? Like, and I looked down and I looked at his footprint. It was still on the ground. Now, remind you, this gas station set back off the road, so I don't give a damn how fast you are. You could not have got to any street or around that gas station without me seeing that. And it threw me off because my money was gone. Because I did give him $100, Before I give him 100. My money was gone, my clothes was gone, and the footstep was on the floor. So that probably had to be the creepiest thing that I probably ever experienced. Yeah.
All right, what's good, everybody? It's your man D Boat back to give you some real game this time. All right. Now I've seen a lot of weird and creepy things in the 18 years I've done this job. All right, but the story I'm about to tell you is probably the creepiest. I remember it was 2007. Let me set it up. It was about 2007, and I remember that because it was the night the Bears played the Colts in the Super Bowl, and I had to work. Love to watch my Bears play, but I had to work, so I was trying to stop at certain places in between calls and catch a glimpse of the game. Well, we get a call way out in the boonies, and like outside the city limits or something like that. And it was way off, a place I had never been. I didn't know this little area existed, but I digress. So we go back way off into this dark cut, and I think it was a domestic call because I know another officer was with me. When we get there, half of the party had already left. I'm assuming it was a female. And so we go in there and we talk to the guy. And the guy says, listen, whatever y'all do, y'all keep her away from here. Because every time she comes, she brings that evil with her. That evil comes with her. So I kind of didn't pay it any mind, right? So we realized that the lady had left. He said everything was fine. Okay, we good. My partner leaves, and I kind of leave because I was kind of trying to eye the game while, we were talking. And so I go ahead and leave. Now, again, this is way off in the backwoods, and the cut is extremely dark, pitch black, but he does have like a little lamp or light on the side of his house that would probably illuminate a span of about maybe 5 feet or so. He had a barn in the back of his house, and I heard some rustling when I came out of the house to go get in my car. And because of that little light that was on the side, I could barely see what it was back there. But what I saw looked like a huge black Doberman pinscher. This thing was humongous. Now, I stand about 6'3". This thing looks like it could stand on all fours and look me straight in the face. And I kind of caught a glimpse of it moving around back there. And I said, oh, wait, oh, no way. I noped out. I got in my car and left. I'm from Chicago. I'm not from the backwoods. I ain't used to seeing stuff like this, right? So I go ahead and I leave. I cut on the floodlight. I cut on the spotlight in my high beams because it's so dark back there. And so I drive off, and I notice this thing is galloping behind me. Now it's following me, and I could see it's like a huge dog. It just was too big to be a dog, but it wasn't a moose. We don't have moose here. The best way I could describe it is like a Doberman pinscher, right? So I take off about 45 miles an hour. I want to get away from this thing. And this thing is keeping up with me. Now, last I checked, here in North America, most of our land animals top off at about 35 miles an hour. So whatever this was, it was keeping up with no problem. I'm not going to be able to finish it. Come back for part 2. All right, what's good, everybody? It's part 2. If you didn't see part 1, go check it out for context. All right, let's get into it. So now I'm on this dirt road going about 45 miles an hour. I cut my lights on, my blue lights, to scare it off. Needless to say, it didn't scare it off, fam. I could only see it that much better. I look back there, and to describe it, it was like a big Doberman pinscher, huge, very muscular yet skinny. It had a real streamlined face with long ears that stood straight up. But here's the thing, it had like stringy black hair in its face. The best way I can describe it. And it's keeping pace with me at 45. Now I know up the road here, about maybe a mile or two, there is a paved road. Once I hit that paved road, I know I'm gonna open up and I'm gonna lose this thing. I just know it, right? I hit the paved road, I hit that right, open it up, 70, 75 miles an hour, I'm gone, I'm noped out, right? This thing comes around the corner and it's keeping pace. It's about no more than about 20 yards behind me, but it's keeping pace. Last I checked, the fastest land animal was a cheetah, and they top out about 65, 70 miles an hour. This was not a cheetah. I don't know what it was, but I know what it wasn't. It wasn't a cheetah. So it's keeping pace. So now up the road, I see another intersection, and I said, I'm gonna hit this left really sharply. So I hit this left. It comes and tries to hit the left as well, but it loses its footing and begins to tumble, right? So I say, yeah, I got it, right? I'm out. And I'll keep glancing in my rear view. I keep glancing in my rear view, right? It kind of reanimates, get back on all fours, and it starts to try to catch up. But its body language was like, man, he's too far. I'm not going to be able to catch him. So I'm going to give up. So it looks like he's I'm losing him, right? Now, here's the thing. I don't know exactly what I saw. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was late. It was really dark. I don't know. But as I'm glancing in my rear view to check where it's at, I could have sworn it was just a glimpse. But I could have sworn I looked up and I saw the thing running on all fours. And it looks like it stood up and started running like a human. The best way I could describe it, in the quick glimpse that I got, it looked like a really muscular woman running in the shadows. Keep in mind, it was really dark and it was really far away now. So, it was a little ways back, but that's the best way I can describe it. Creeped me out. And when the guy said in part one, when I told you, he said she brings that evil with her every time she comes. Could be what he was talking about. I don't know. I went and found me a place to watch the rest of the game. I'm B Boat. You've been briefed. I know that's creepy. Follow me for more game.
Okay. So, as a nurse, working in the hospital a lot, we see creepy things. But something that really always sticks out with me happened a long time ago in the emergency room I used to work in. The ER I used to work at, I worked second shift, which was 3 to 11 over there. And it was a Friday night, and it was unusually quiet that night. Anyway, in our emergency room that I worked at, there was a room dedicated just to trauma. Heart attacks or massive trauma that was require a lot of hands-on, doctors, nurses, techs, everybody involved. They went to that room. Well, in that room, we always left the light off unless we were needed in there. That was always a signal. If that light was on, something was going on. So I was headed in there to restock some of the supplies in the room. I had a few extra minutes on my hands and decided to make some use of it. Well, as I was restocking the supplies, I heard a very distinct, clear as a bell whisper shout from behind, and it said my name. Now, a whisper shout is when I was like, hey, what are you doing? That's a whisper shout. Well, as I was restocking, I clearly, distinctly heard somebody whisper, John. And I didn't think anything of it, so I just turned around and I said, hey, anybody call me? I walked out the room. I looked up and down the hallway. Nobody was there. I walked to the nurse's station. I asked them, I said, hey, did anybody call me? They said, no, we didn't need anything. And that creeped me out because I clearly heard somebody call my name and wasn't nobody there. Now, this room, just for reference, like I said, when it's a trauma room, a lot of the heart attacks go in there, major stuff. So, that room has seen its fair share of people who shuffled off their mortal coil. That's where that room was where they spent their last few seconds on this planet. So, yeah, that was my creepiest experience.
This is really a core memory for me, and it creeps me out to this day. Okay, so when I was a kid, I was elementary school, so anywhere from kindergarten to 5th grade. There was this little girl in my hometown who went missing, and I'm guessing to protect her identity, they named her Precious Doe. Now, she looked just like me. Like, she was on billboards all around the city, and people always called my mom and asked her, like, is Indy okay? We saw a billboard, it looked a lot like her, like, we're just making sure she's okay. And it creeped me out so much because it really looked just like me. When I would see her picture on the billboards, like, it would really give me nightmares. It was just such a weird situation. So I don't know how much time had passed, but I was at an after school program one day, and this group of people came in and said that they were there to take me. Now, thankfully, I was at one of those programs that had like serious protocols in order for someone who's not the parent to take the kid. And they asked me if I knew the people. I was like, absolutely not. The people said that they were there to give me clothes and my mom sent them. It was weird. So the daycare was calling my mom, and I saw the people like run into a van and just drive away before my mom even got on the phone. So I don't know what that was about. We never figured that out. We don't know who it was, what they wanted, any of that. So another couple of, I don't know the time frame, I don't know how much time had passed, but I was at a church picnic with my grandparents, and my mom was at home and she got a call, and the people on the phone were like, hey, do you have a daughter? Is she at a picnic? Does she have on a blue tank top and green shorts? And my mom's like, yes. What is going on? And they said, like, we've had a spotting of her. We just want to make sure that she's okay and that she's not in danger. Again, we don't know who these people are. They don't say who they are. My mom's freaking out because it's so long ago. There wasn't like cell phones. My grandparents didn't have cell phones. So my mom's just like waiting at home for me to get back home so she can confirm that I'm okay. So once she does, I mean, there was nothing we could do about it. Like, everything was connected to this precious dough situation. I don't know what it was about. And I mean, a couple of like, I don't know how long it was, some time passed, and it was found out that the little girl was actually murdered by her parents. They found her in trash bags, scattered, her body parts. And it was incredibly creepy, incredibly traumatizing. I've never forgot the memory. I have no way to pinpoint what it was about. I don't know how I was involved. I may need to go back and ask my parents, but yeah. So I almost got kidnapped and everybody thought that I was murdered.
Y'all, leave y'all creepy experiences if you'd like to share in the comments, and I will see you all in the next video.